Discover the raw stories of youth, work, and love. Beyond what social media can show, experience the vibrant Korea through its hidden gems. Mama, the ultimate K-pop festival for global fans. Find your star in a feast of trendy music and electrifying performances. Now, the whole world enjoys it together.
The moment we wear it, our spirits lift. It helps us grow strong, in body and in mind. As we wear it, we learn patience and respect. The belt system motivates students to strive harder and continue growing. This uniform shapes movement into grace and turns performance into something thrilling. Now, embraced around the world, Taekwondo shares our culture, philosophy, and values with pride and spirit. Though it may seem simple, this uniform holds your passion and your journey. It belongs to Taekwondo. Wear the extraordinary. Be with Taekwondo.
The United States has extended its pause on threatened military strikes against Iranian energy infrastructure by 10 days, pushing a critical deadline to April 6. This comes amid major escalation by Israeli forces, which announced it had killed Iran's Navy commander. Starting today, South Korea has raised its fuel price cap by more than 200 won per liter, as global oil prices continue to climb. The new cap will remain in place for 2 weeks, through April 9th. South Korea's Nobel laureate Han Kang has won the National Book Critics Circle Prize for Fiction for her novel We Do Not Part. This marks the second time a Korean author has won an NBCC award, and it's the first time a translated work has ever claimed the prize in fiction. Hello and thanks for joining us on Arirang News. For the second time this week, U.S. President Donald Trump has extended an ultimatum for Iran to open the Strait of Hormuz to international shipping traffic, noting peace talks are going very well. But as Washington allows a brief window for diplomacy, regional tensions continue following Israel's assassination of the Iranian naval commander overseeing the blockade of the waterway. Our Kim Do-yeon has the details.
The United States has given Iran another reprieve, halting threatened military strikes on its energy infrastructure to allow room for diplomacy. U.S. President Donald Trump announced a 10-day pause on the destruction of Iranian energy plants, pushing an existing deadline from March 27 to April 6. Taking to Truth Social on Thursday, the president noted the extension was requested by the Iranian government and that ongoing talks are progressing well. However, the rhetoric from Washington remains forceful. During a cabinet meeting, President Trump asserted that Iran's severely degraded military capabilities have left Tehran desperate for an agreement. He also issued a stern economic warning, stating that the U.S. seizing and gaining control of Iranian oil reserves remains a viable option if negotiations fail.
Who wouldn't negotiate? They are begging to make a deal. We'll see if we can make the right deal. And if they make the right deal, then the strait will open up. Hormuz Strait will open up.
The potential reopening of Strait of Hormuz is closely tied to the latest major escalation by Israeli forces. On Thursday, Israel announced it had killed the commander of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy.
This man has a great deal of blood on his hands, and in addition, he was the one who led the closure of the Strait of Hormuz.
This key military figure was directly responsible for overseeing the ongoing blockade of the critical maritime transit route. Netanyahu also claimed the killing was a coordinated strategic effort with the United States to achieve broader wartime objectives. The combination of a tactical pause from Washington and a strategic strike from Israel leaves global energy markets and international supply chains highly volatile. 김도현, 아리랑 뉴스.
Meanwhile, France says its military chief has held talks with counterparts from 35 countries, including South Korea, on plans to reopen the Strait of Hormuz once the U.S.-Israeli conflict with Iran subsides. According to France's defense ministry on Thursday, the talks focused on potential post-conflict operations to restore shipping once hostilities ease. Officials say the plan could involve a strictly defensive mission, including escorting commercial vessels and ensuring freedom of navigation through the strait. The defense ministry stressed that the meeting served as an opportunity to gather positions from countries willing to join a joint effort to help ensure safe maritime navigation in the strategic region. South Korea has raised its fuel price cap by more than 200 won per liter, with pump prices expected to climb into the 2001 range. At the same time, the government is moving to restrict naphtha exports for 5 months, as Middle East tensions disrupt energy supplies and raise concerns over shortages. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
South Korea's second fuel price cap took effect at midnight on Friday, raising limits by more than 200 won, or 15 cents per liter in just 2 weeks, as global oil prices continue to climb. Under the new cap, gasoline is set at 1,934 won, or about $1.43 per liter, while diesel is capped at 1,923 won, roughly $1.42. Kerosene is priced at 1,531, or around $1.13 per liter. Even with the measure, retail fuel prices are expected to enter the 2001 range, or about $1.48 per liter, as pump prices had already been trending higher. Consumers say the burden is growing, with monthly fuel costs rising significantly.
I used to spend about 200,000 to 250,000 a month on gas, but now it's gone up to over 300,000 won, so it definitely feels like a much heavier burden.
The government says the adjustment reflects rising global oil prices while expanding tax relief to ease the impact. Fuel tax cuts have been widened to 15% for gasoline from the previous 7% and 25% for diesel from the previous 10%, lowering prices by up to 6 cents per liter, with a larger reduction for diesel due to its role in industry and logistics. Finance Minister Koo Yoon-chul says the goal is to balance market pressures with consumer relief. The new cap will remain in place through April 9th, with officials warning prices could continue to rise in the coming days. Authorities also say additional tax cuts remain possible if global oil prices climb further. Meanwhile, South Korea is moving to stabilize supply. The government will begin restricting the export of naphtha, used for manufacturing plastics and chemicals, for 5 months starting Friday, as shortages deepen amid the Middle East conflict. The Ministry of Trade, Industry and Resources say the move follows supply disruptions after strikes on Iran, with South Korea importing about half of its naphtha through the Strait of Hormuz, a key route now effectively closed. To support domestic industries, authorities plan to expand low-interest loans and may raise import credit limits. About 11% of domestically produced naphtha exports will be redirected to local buyers. Officials say the measures are aimed at containing both rising consumer costs and growing supply risks as global energy uncertainty continues. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
President Lee Jae-myung has paid his respects to the 55 fallen heroes who died while defending the country's west coast and vowed to end confrontation in the West Sea. Speaking at the 11th West Sea Defense Day commemoration on Friday at Taejeon National Cemetery, he vowed to strengthen policies for veterans and their families. In the morning, President Lee and First Lady Kim Hae-kyung visited the Cemetery of the Fallen Heroes and paid their respects. The West Sea Defense Day falls on the 4th Friday of March to honor those who died while defending the nation's sea areas, including the 2002 inter-Korean naval clash near the maritime border. This week marks 1 year since the start of one of the largest forest fires in South Korea. Though time has passed, the local residents still haven't fully recovered from the damage. Our An Sung-jin files this report from the ground.
Bare tree stumps cover the desolate hillside. The frame of a collapsed greenhouse stands nearby with old farming equipment still scattered inside. It has been a year since 75-year-old Ye Gong-hye lost everything in one of the country's worst wildfires. His life, once rooted in this land for more than 20 years, remains in limbo.
I've built everything in this area from scratch, starting from electricity to these roads. I still remember how fast the fire was coming towards me on the day. My youth burned away. I just want proper support before I die to compensate all my loss.
For survivors like him, the government provided temporary housing. About 20 households live in the same complex. But that housing comes with a 2-year limit, and rebuilding a stable life and returning to what once was feels uncertain at best. The wildfire, which began on March 22, 2025 in the Yeongnam region, quickly spread, burning nearly 100,000 hectares of land. It killed more than 30 people and displaced thousands, marking it as one of the most devastating disasters of its kind. This coastal village in Yeongdeokgun County stood here for around 300 years and was once home to nearly 90 households. But after nearly 80 of them burned down, all that remains is an empty lot and a 33-square-meter temporary shelter where the remaining residents are struggling to get by. In an effort to help residents cope, Yeongdeokgun County recently held a memorial event at the community sports center where residents had once taken refuge. Survivors, volunteers, and local officials gathered together not only to remember, but to look ahead.
We've gone through so much to come here to establish the special law and its enforcement decree, but they are not being implemented in the way the victims want. We intend to present our case and demand a fair and proper compensation.
Lawmakers continue to emphasize legislative efforts aimed at recovery and prevention. One lawmaker in a dedicated parliamentary committee focused on recovery, whose own land was affected, highlighted the need for more than short-term aid.
Because this happened in a rural area, we need special measures for rebuilding. These elderly farmers, fishermen, and forestry workers have lost their livelihoods, and the key question is how they can sustain themselves here again.
Wildfires may last only moments, but their impact stretches across years. Without support and understanding, people like Ye Gong-hye face an uncertain path to recovery. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
South Korea's Nobel laureate Han Kang has won the National Book Critics Circle Prize for Fiction for her novel We Do Not Part. Organizers said Thursday local time that the translated novel won the prestigious American Literacy Award at a ceremony in New York. We Do Not Part revolves around the perspectives of 3 women set against the backdrop of a civilian massacre on South Korea's Jeju-do Island in 1948, and was highly praised for its powerful, sobering work, as well as its portrayal of Korea's past. It's the second time a Korean author has won an NBCC award, following Kim Ye-soon's poetry win for Phantom Pain Wang, and it's the first time a translated work has ever claimed the prize in fiction. South Korea's convenience stores are under transformation. They're now betting on localized experiences, turning stores into K-food destinations and even running hubs. Our Kim Jun-ho explains.
A library of ramen fills a convenience store in Myeongdong. At the heart of a bustling tourist spot, this K-ramen specialty store showcases a wall nearly 3 meters tall, lined with around 170 different varieties.
Since we get a lot of foreign visitors, we've organized the ramyeon by spice levels. We also placed popular items like banana milk up front for easier access.
Customers choose their ramen and move to a cooking station, adding sides like kimchi and kimbap to recreate a local way of enjoying the dish.
I mean, it's kind of the variety of ramyeon, how you can see here, and like the process how to make it with the machine. It's very easy, so it's very nice.
I tried something where the Netflix show was
The cook was selected, so it was very good but very spicy as well.
Elsewhere in the same building, the lower floor showcases souvenirs, K-beauty items, and K-pop merchandise, attracting anyone looking to experience Korean culture. Such trend comes as South Korea's convenience store industry saw the number of stores decline for the first time last year after nearly 4 decades of steady growth. Having long relied on expanding store networks to boost buying power, the model is now showing its limits as the market saturates. In response, the industry is now turning to new strategies. It's not just foreign tourists that are being targeted. On the bank of the Han River here in Yeouido, this store attracts local runners, offering everything they need before and after a run. With running as a hobby on the rise, this store offers lockers for storing belongings, along with a curated section dedicated to running gear. Changing rooms and a powder room add to runners' convenience, while a photo zone completes the experience.
I run 4 times a week. I came here once and liked it, so I came back. There are more energy gels and drinks than in other stores here. I also find the changing room really convenient.
Such specialized stores have emerged in part due to the growing dominance of online retail.
E-commerce has become central to Korea's retail landscape. Convenience stores, once defined by accessibility, now need to evolve beyond that. Strategies that focus on analyzing each local market and providing products and services tailored to local demand are becoming increasingly important.
Amid changing retail trends, convenience stores are redefining themselves as spaces designed for experiences. Kim Junong, Arirang News.
Nora Noh, a pioneer of Korea's fashion industry, is holding a special exhibition in downtown Seoul to celebrate her 99th birthday. Our culture correspondent Park Gun-woo sat down with her for an exclusive interview to capture her extraordinary journey.
7 decades after Korea's first ever fashion show, Nora Noh, aka Korea's Coco Chanel, looks back on her near-century-long lifetime. After a divorce at around 20, Noh boldly left her family behind to study fashion in the U.S.
I chose a new path where I had to risk everything. As I stepped on the plane, I couldn't be anxious or feel sad at all.
Overseas experiences opened her eyes while also visiting developed countries, including Italy. Noh was struck by the sharp contrast with Seoul, especially in the aftermath of the Korean War.
During my visit to Italy, I heard about how the country successfully recovered through the textile industry. That's how I returned, thinking how to apply it with Korea.
At a time when only few Koreans could afford her designs made with Korean silk, Noh turned outward, proposing exports to the U.S. instead. Noh said at first U.S. people didn't know a thing about Korea, but her persistence paid off, with later Korean-made garments showcased in major U.S. department stores.
At my first fashion show in New York, many journalists came expecting European designs, but it was mine, Korean brand, Korean design, made with Korean fabrics. My designs were praised and described as under well-controlled elegance, clothes that aren't flashy but are subtly stylish, so I felt proud.
Now Noh says K-fashion stands at another turning point amid K-culture's global dominance.
Korea has the potential, as I've already shown that myself. Koreans are leading in every industry, so why not fashion? We need to revive the textile industry, while also exploring new Korean fabrics.
Noh also stressed the need to pass fashion down through generations. Her successors now taking that vision global.
We showcase our collections twice a year in the U.S. with strong interest from local buyers. We're working with 50 retailers now and plan to expand further.
선생님께서는 다음 목표 같은 게 또 있으실까요?
I want to thank everyone who helped me, because nothing's possible alone. I hope to be remembered for craftsmanship and pride in my work. Everyone needs to have pride in their job, which is how Korea developed.
To give back, Noh has displayed around 70 of her pieces for a free exhibition in Seoul, marking her 99th birthday. Running through mid-July, the exhibition highlights her legacy and craftsmanship, showing how the K-fashion industry has evolved and where it's headed next. Park Gun-woo, Arirang News.
This is The World Now, bringing you everything you need to know from around the globe. A New York federal court on Thursday began proceedings against the ousted Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro on narco-terrorism and drug trafficking charges. Prosecutors say Maduro directed a government-wide conspiracy that moved cocaine into the United States through Colombian rebel group FARC. Maduro and his wife Celia Flores pleaded not guilty to all charges. Meanwhile, Maduro's lead attorney threatened to walk off the case over a funding dispute. U.S. sanctions are currently blocking Maduro from using Venezuelan government funds to pay his defense fees. The presiding judge questioned the government's justification for blocking the payments but declined to dismiss the charges. Wall Street posted its biggest single-day loss of the year on Thursday as the U.S.-Israeli war against Iran drove oil prices higher and pushed the Nasdaq into official correction territory. The Nasdaq fell 2.4%, ending more than 10% below its October record high. The S&P 500 lost 1.7% and the Dow dropped 1%. U.S. crude settled up 4.6% as disruptions to oil shipments through the Strait of Hormuz showed no sign of easing. The OECD said on Thursday that the conflict has wiped out a previously projected upgrade to global growth. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelenskyy arrived in Saudi Arabia on Thursday on an unannounced visit. Ukraine is currently advising Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Kuwait, and Jordan on countering Iranian drone attacks in exchange for the high-end air defense missiles those nations possess. Meanwhile, European allies meeting in Finland on Thursday pledged to intensify action against Russia's shadow fleet of sanctioned oil tankers. A drone strike hit a sanctioned Russian-linked vessel in the Black Sea that same morning. The International Olympic Committee on Thursday confirmed that only biological female athletes will be eligible to compete in women's events at the Olympic Games. Starting with the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics, the IOC will require all female category competitors to pass a one-time SRY gene screening, a saliva or cheek swab test that determines biological sex development. The IOC cited fairness and athlete safety as the basis for the policy. Limited exceptions apply for athletes with rare sex development disorders. Chu Ji-han, Arirang News.
Along with a huge rise in afternoon temperatures, there has been a big rise in dust levels as well. Today looks like being worse with additional dust forecast to move in later today. In particular, the capital region and inland Gangwon-do province could reach very bad levels during the morning and again at night. Meanwhile, dry weather alerts are being issued across much of Korea. And as you know, nationwide fire alert is currently at the alert level, so fire safety is a must. And this afternoon will be as warm or warmer than yesterday. Seoul will be getting up to 20 degrees Celsius. Daegu will be much warmer at 25 degrees under sunny skies nationwide, but skies will be blurred with layers of dust. Warm spring weather continues through the weekend, but air quality will stay in a bad range. So make sure to have a face mask when heading outdoors. Then some of the capital area is forecast to have a rainy start to the new week.
That's all we have for today's noon edition of Arirang News. Thank you for watching. We'll be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Stay tuned.
Good evening and welcome to the 10 o'clock edition of Arirang News. Thanks for joining us on this special day, a day in which Arirang TV first goes on the air.
Arirang TV is Korea's first.